not having a prohibition or a differing view on marriage at that age be unacceptable now? Do you hold that it's still acceptable?
No, now I'm saying different century, different society. Back in the days, people used to do that. But now no one does that anymore. Unless,
why do they not do it?
because the culture, the time changes, everything changed now.
So are there any
people,
other,
let's say example, back in the days, gay people was not allowed in UK, but now gay, same gender, marriage, same gender, it's fine now.
Being homosexual is not widely
No, back in the days it wasn't normal. No, back in the days,
it wasn't a Greek
LGBT was not normal.
That didn't exist.
Yes,
I agree.
But now they allow it. So why? Because they're saying back in the days it was different now compared to that now.
I hold that view. That
You understand that?
Over the passage of time, especially long periods.
Yes. And plus
rules and what's permissible and not permissible varies.
Yes.
But is it not a tenet of Islam, without being specific, that the rules, so say Sharia law, that's very unimmutable, that is absolute. These are the rules, they apply in this way
in
across
Islam,
all time.
I'll explain it to you. In Islam, you know, every country and every law is different. Let's say now in UK, adult is from age 18, yes?
Yep, currently,
Other countries, like United States, some states, a 14-year-old can get married.
I would be,
okay.
I don't know, I'd believe
that.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying. So, in some places, 16 is an adult. I think 2 years ago, a 16-year-old could get married in this country.
Okay.
But by her parents' consent. But now they said until 18, no. Okay. So, but in this country now, they said you cannot marry a girl until the age of 18. But the same law says a girl who is below, under the age of 18, can have a boyfriend and can do whatever she wants to do with her boyfriend. Look, now, no, I'm coming.
How does it come back to you?
Okay, so I'm coming. So in Islam, if a girl or a boy reaches the age of puberty, is not classed anymore as a child. Okay. Some girls, they reach the age of puberty at the age of 9. Some boys 10, some 11,
I
10.
get the point.
So
Lots
depends
of
on the
given. They're good.
Depends on the age of puberty.
It depends to some extent on
so
the times
in
as
Islam,
well, doesn't it?
In Islam, if a person reaches puberty is not classed as a child anymore. Let's say a 10-year-old, he reaches puberty in Islam. Or 11, 12.
What is the rule? Is there a fixed rule, or is it subject to change
in
over
Islam,
time?
No, once you reach the age of puberty, the age of puberty starts from 9.
But medically it starts earlier and earlier.
Yes. So because now, that's why it can happen sometimes. And also back in the days, people were massive compared to us.
I mean, but you would accept that a 6-year-old...
He didn't sleep at the age of 6.
But he married.
He married.
So that is actually true. First of all, I'm not wrong
married.
In
he married at the age of 6, but he did not sleep until the age of 9.
But you say that doesn't happen now. Why doesn't it happen now? Is it because people take a different view?
Let me give you an example. Can you force your daughter if she wants to do something? Can you force her to do something?
I probably could. I shouldn't.
Can you force?
Do
you believe children has priority?
I may break various rules and senses, my own personal sense of morality by forcing someone.
Is it okay a 6 or 9-year-old to have a boyfriend?
My personal view on it?
No, according to the law.
I think that's
the law doesn't make sense. Do you know why?
The law would allow.
You know the law doesn't make sense.
When you say have a boyfriend, do you mean to have sex, or do
because
you mean to have a boyfriend?
look, before the age of 18, 90% or 80%, I would say, girls are not virgin through boyfriend relationship. So now, if you are telling me you care about girls and you care about children, then you have to prohibit boyfriend and girlfriend, because boyfriend and girlfriend and marriage is the same. Do you know why? The difference is just signing papers, contract.
So you seem to,
signing contract and having a boyfriend. You're still doing the same.
Do you mind me just saying? What you're saying, and I very clearly outlined. So thank you for that.
Yes.
You appear to be making an argument, a reasonably good argument, that a child of 6 getting married would be improper in today's times? Would I be wrong in thinking that's where you stand on that?
You know, marrying in Islam is different. The way you do marriage is different to us.
Yeah.
Marrying a 6-year-old, Prophet married Aisha at the age of 6. He did not touch her.
No, but would
just
she,
a contract.
I understand, but
it's just contract.
Yeah, but it's a contract that she would not have had consideration on.
Of course.
She's 6. She wouldn't. I suppose the problem that not just I would have with that, but that others might have, is that they would say, look, you have a clear. There's going to be no relations of any sort, so we could clear that up. And I say, okay, that I understand that. But nonetheless, the child of 6,
as long you're not forcing them.
But a child of 6 cannot surely consent with full understanding as to what they're going to be involved in, to be betrothed to a man and become that person's wife. I mean, they're 6.
But when she was 9, I'm talking about when she was 9.
Even at 9.
What happened? You know, in Islam, if the girl is not happy with the marriage, we cannot force them. Yes.
How would she express that?
Express by not going against it.
Mostly, if she was not happy and didn't want to remain
if she's
married.
not happy, we can tell. She talks. In Islam, you talk. If you don't talk, let me example. If I go to the court with you now, and you say to me, I'm the one who killed your daughter, and I'm speechless. I'm not talking.
Sorry, you know he came, the African spiritual guy. I saw him walking around.
Oh, okay. So if I am to go to the court along with you, against you, and you blame me of something which I have never done it.
Well, then the evidence would have to be presented.
If you say I did this, what do I have to do to protect myself?
You have to provide evidence that
I have to talk.
I know. I
have to say.
No.
I'm not the one who did. But if I stay quiet,
I have to prove your guilt.
What if I stay quiet?
Well, then you would still be represented in court.
That means I'm the one who did. Otherwise, I have to defend myself by saying, yes, you have to.
Many people choose to not speak.
In Islam, now if I come to you and say to you, you're a thief, and you're not a thief, what would you do? You would talk.
We're not really.
You would talk.
My point is, we're no longer on the subject of consent.
No, I'm asking consent. No, I'm saying consent.
Consenting.
Consent. It can be silence.
So,
if the girl is silenced, that means she's okay with it.
The lack of speaking is consent.
Yes, consent in Islam.
I find that astonishing.
Yes, because now look, if you ask your daughter, let's say example, for the sake of argument, by law now this country. It says a girl cannot get married until the age of 18. But she's allowed, she's okay. The law is okay with it to have intercourse before 18.
I'll give you a good example why I have a very deep-seated problem with that.
Okay.
Let's imagine that you're a female.
Yes.
And I'm considerably larger and scarier than I actually am stood here today before you.
Okay.
And I am therefore quite intimidating to you, whether I mean it or not. And that there's a social pressure for that child not to speak what they feel inside.
Okay. Do you know
their lack of speaking, in your view, as outlined now, would indicate that they are consenting to what is going on? I have a problem with that. I don't see that doesn't create major problems.
I can answer that one because do you know why? Because not all the children react the same.
I'm talking about those who don't
I'm
speak.
saying you can see I'm saying you can see a 9-year-old who is more active than another 9-year-old.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yes. So you would see a 9-year-old who is a midget, or a 9-year-old who is physically massive.
Right.
I've seen many 16, 15, 14 looks like 20-year-old or 30-year-old.
Right. I'm not sure what the...
So it's not because of the age sometimes. It's because of the mentality and because of the courage you have.
Yes,
you understand?
And my point stands, though, that if even one individual that young if you rely on them to speak up, or they are consenting to, I'm assuming more than just marriage, other things as well. If they feel a social pressure to not say, maybe it's going to benefit their family, this marriage, and there's a pressure on them to go through with it because that's going to help others within their familial unit.
Okay, let me ask you.
Then they may not be empowered to speak up, and yet they're going to be subjected to something they don't consent to, or may not even be competent in their youth to even understand fully. I think that raises major issues.
No, I have the answer for that one. I have the answer for that one.
Let me just one more second. But you can't just put aside by a sort of casual reference to some children look a bit older.
You know, if, let's say, Aisha was never happy with the marriage, let's say example for the sake of argument, when she grown up, when she was 18, or not, she died at the age of 54, by the way, there is no single hadith or complaint, or there's no single hadith where Aisha complained about that marriage.
I don't doubt it.
So,
I mean, she was
so
married
that
to
means
Muhammad.
she was happy.
She would have felt.
She was happy with it.
I would suggest
she was happy with it. Otherwise,
that's your point.
Otherwise, she would have talked when she was 19, 20, 21, 34, 54. She never said anything about her marriage. She never criticized.
Yeah.
So my question to you: who knows better than who knows better? You or Aisha, the one who had,
I would say an adult would know
who faced the incident.
I would say
who faced the incident, you or Aisha?
I would say
who faced the incident, you or Aisha?
Well, clearly she was married to him. I wasn't alive.
No, who faced the incident?
Obvious, isn't it?
No, who faced the incident?
Well, what do you mean by incident? Sorry.
No, who faced the incident of getting married?
Well, we've answered that. I mean,
no, who faced Aisha? Yes, the incident.
And her family.
No, that happened. Okay.
And according, around her?
Yes, her family allowed.
I assume she had a father and a mother.
Her mother and her father allowed. Also, Aisha allowed. If Aisha would not allow, and let's say that would cause Aisha mental problem, yes, would lead that case, to Aisha mentally illness, then Aisha would not become top 6 knowledgeable scholars. And top six when it comes to the narrators of the hadith.
So there's a couple of things I'd like to say. First of all, it's important when we're discussing, we have to use an example.
Yes.
And of course that's a very prominent example.
Yes.
And in fact we're using it because that's what I first asked you about.
Yes.
So I completely accept that. But what we have to do is understand the processes that are going on and how that might play out in a whole multitude of examples, such that children of a young age are betrothed to older men, let's say. Now, in her case, I would suggest, I can't say for sure because I wasn't there, but do you accept that there may well been an awful lot of pressure? I mean, Muhammad was a very, very well-known individual, very powerful, very knowledgeable, very revered.
You know who's the father of Aisha?
So if someone, hold on, just let me finish. So if that was the case, there would have been an unspecifiable level of pressure.
Yes.
Now that, to me, must be at least considered in the discussion of what took place, and that may well have led to her not being able to raise any concerns. Having said that, I would accept maybe she was genuinely happy, but that doesn't speak to the truth and the risks that are inherent in that type of activity, that type of practice, across all the other examples that you might see.
No, I understand.
Do you know what I mean? I just feel there's
what I'm trying to make a point here.
Plus when she was really young,
yes.
I mean, I agree with you. When she got older and became a woman with more of a voice,
she was the most knowledgeable, one of the most knowledgeable.
In my experience, women, when they get into their 20s and 30s, they're more than capable of speaking
up.
Yep. We might even have 2 guys joke about how much they're capable of speaking up and telling their husbands when they're not happy. But a 9-year-old faced with the suggestion that she's marrying someone who is incredibly revered, I mean, I don't know, I imagine may have even been considered a sort of deity of some kind, you know. This man was considered someone who was receiving word from God.
Yes.
So how on earth would a 9-year-old girl not agree to be betrothed to someone like that? And also, to what extent, given our knowledge now of psychology and development and the brain, to what extent must we consider that she might not have been mature enough to really fully understand the implications of what she was going into? I mean, I have children, and they will agree to things with no real sense of the consequences. Do you know what I mean? My son would buy a lollipop off of you for £100 because he just doesn't understand that that's ridiculous.
Yes, I understand.
You know? So these are my concerns.
No, as I said before, I said not all the time 9-year-old reacts the same or behave the same. So you see a 9-year-old who is not reliable.
But who decides?
No, I'm just saying example. Now you can find even a 9-year-old. Now I can show you now. If you go in Africa or Arab countries, some places, or even in UK now, you see a 9-year-old is more mature than a 20-year-old.
They may appear to be.
Depends
by presentation.
Depends on the mentality.
Whether they really are
yes,
is another matter.
Their mentality. So not every time we see a 9-year-old getting married or is a big issue. Now what I'm saying is.
I think it is for a large number.
I'm
of
saying
people.
if Aisha, would that affect her? Would that affect her?
Well, she was 6.
Yes, would that? No, just marriage. Contract is nothing.
But
Contract. No one is touching her.
No.
Okay.
Even if
So
I accept
my point
all of
is,
that, and I have no problem
my
accepting
point
that,
is,
it's her life being prescribed for her without her necessarily being able to knowingly consent to what was that going to be.
Do you know? Forget about children. As an adult.
Yeah.
No, example now, as an adult or as a child. Yeah.
Stayed on the subject.
Yeah, I'm saying as a child or as an adult. Yeah. If you're not happy with something, and you keep that thing in your heart, do you know what it feels psychological?
I imagine it's absolutely
that is going to affect you emotionally, and then they say what your thought becomes what your thought becomes feelings, and your feelings becomes what emotion.
Generally speaking, if you're
emotion, and that emotion becomes physical now.
What would develop?
It's going to develop.
What would develop?
But nothing developed from Aisha.
What would develop?
See now that means Aisha was okay. And she was happy. No one forced her. Otherwise, that would affect Aisha mentality.
Do you know?
Would affect her mentally.
In countries around the world, if we just sort of step aside for a moment, where you have domestic abuse, let's say.
Yes.
So you may have, and typically domestic abuse, not in all circumstances, is male on female.
Yes.
So a man will be abusive towards his partner, controlling. Yes. Maybe physically abusive, psychologically abusive.
Yes.
In many instances, those women. Now, I'm not making a direct parallel to suggest that Muhammad. So don't think that. What I'm trying to do is tease out some of the reasons why and the evidence to support that in situations where someone is unhappy, despite the fact that it affects them negatively, they do continue, and the evidence is very strong. They will continue, sadly, in many instances, to stay in that relationship and hide that abuse, hide their feelings, hide the fact that they're not happy for years, and it destroys them.
But Aisha never hid.
No,
she was 54, she was free, she was happy. Otherwise, if that would affect her mentally.
Let's assume she was happy.
Yeah.
But
let's say if that would affect Aisha mentally
Yeah.
and physically, then Aisha would not be one of the most knowledgeable when it comes to.
It feels a little bit.
Islam.
My concern is that it feels a little bit like if we find one example of something that worked, we then can extrapolate from the fact that that worked. Let's assume that marriage was very happy, very productive. I have no reason or evidence to suggest otherwise. The problem I have though is there's a danger of taking one example and extrapolating from that and saying all examples of this practice taking place will also be good, and that the problems that could arise, the dangers that might arise out of lack of consent, not being happy, silence being taken as consent, are brushed aside, are lost, and the damage that's caused is not addressed.
In Islam, when someone is feeling oppressed because of your action, or whatever, you can tell because as a human. And Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he knows. There's a lady came to the Prophet, he married Prophet Muhammad, another lady, and she said, "I seek refuge of God from you." You know what Prophet said? Nope. Just because of that word, Prophet said, he released and he said, "Go to your family."
That's great. That's great. But again,
so
it's an example.
If he would,
doesn't speak to the.
So that's why in Islam,
I'm thinking more on the sort of the day-to-day, everyday, as it translates, not to these profound sort of stories or profound events. Forgive the word story, but you know what I mean. Profound things.
And children have the right to choose whatever they want.
No, absolutely not.
Do you believe that your child can change his gender?
My whole argument, and I hope.
Do you accept your child can change his gender?
No. Why would I believe it?
But what if he wants to?
I don't personally accept
Are you going
that.
to force him?
To what?
If
to
he
not
wants to
change his gender.
are you going to force him to stay away from that?
The word force is a very tricky one.
No, I'm just asking.
I would
you
have
polite.
lots of conversations.
Okay, let's say
about
your daughter came to you and said, Daddy, I want to become a man and change my gender.
Yeah.
Would you approve it?
No.
Okay,
If
it's no, would you stop her from doing that?
Until she's of an age where she truly is an adult and I have no say. My personal belief on it is I would do everything I can to discourage it. Because this speaks very well to what I'm saying, actually.
So now I want to get your point.
Can I just respond? Because the reason I would stop her is I would assess the situation to be such that her mental maturity, she's probably going through puberty, very confusing time.
Would that not give her stress? If you would say no,
undoubtedly.
Yes.
But the consequences of her doing it and then regretting it are irreversible. And I would.
Okay. What I was asking you, what was your main point talking about the marriage of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and Aisha? And as I said, different society, different country, different law, different religions. Yes. Yeah. So we have different things, mentality, different societies. So now, example, I said in UK 18, she can get married until the age of 18. But the same UK law, they said why, if you ask them why you're not allowing girls to marry before the age of 18, they say because they do not know what's the right and what's wrong. Yes? Yeah, that's the reason they say.
Well,
but that same law,
among others,
that same law says a girl, a child can change her or his gender. So now, what you're making no sense. You're telling me she cannot get married.
Sorry, you appear to be suggesting that I've said that that's okay.
No, I'm not saying that.
Yeah, so
I'm saying
we're having a conversation.
No, I'm saying it doesn't make sense. But first of all, I told
agree with you. It doesn't make a great deal of sense.
Yeah, because you're telling me she cannot get married at the age until the age of 18, but she can have a boyfriend and do whatever she wants before the age of 18.
Well,
See,
I'm not
double
sure
standard. Again, another one.
The law doesn't specify.
No, look, no, because she's free. I know the youngest mother in the UK is 11-year-old.
Oh yeah, but that's not.
Okay,
that's not legal.
I'm saying if she does that.
Yeah, they're breaking
is that
the law
a problem?
to do that.
Is that a problem?
Well, certainly for me, it's a problem. Yeah.
No. That's fine. Yes. Through marriage, the problem is through marriage. But through boyfriend is fine. Again, the same law which says we care about. No, the same law which says we care about the children. They allow children to change their gender. So you're telling me they cannot get married until the age of 18 because they can't look after themselves. They do not know what's right and what's wrong. But at the same time, you're allowing them to change their gender. Is that correct idea? Being a child, changing your gender. Is that correct? So now my point. What was your main point to
you've
discuss
asked me
about
a couple of times. Let me respond because first of all, the last element
is it about concern about the child?
The last element that you've been talking about is a bit of a segue from what we were discussing. Personally, I would not suggest for 1 second that all of the laws pertaining to how we look after and manage children and help them mature to being fully fledged adults are consistent, are particularly good or correct. But what we've got to be really careful that we don't conflate two things and come to these conclusions as a result of doing that. If we stick to what we were talking about, my argument was, or not even an argument, my question was, what's your position on the marriage of a very young girl to Muhammad? And I think, if I'm correct, your position was that was of its time. And in different cultures at different times, these sorts of practices were prevalent.
In Islam, if you reach the age of puberty, you're not classed as a child.
And I agree, puberty
anymore.
is a social construct.
Yes.
So, for instance, a good example of this in this country is if you went back to Victorian times, people that weren't going always to school, a child would be in full-time employment, working by the age of 11, and childhood was essentially invented for them. Because we decided that it was really good to have people educated. It would help society, and the evidence is overwhelmingly the case that was a good thing. So there is a sort of a non-objective reality to these things. These things are social constructs. So in a sense, I felt at that point very positive, because I thought what you were saying, and I'm not sure you didn't say, is that whilst that did take place, that's no longer a practice which is considered applicable. And I was asking, how does that square, or how is that compatible with the immutability of the laws as prescribed by the Quran?
As I said, marriage in Islam is accepted with 3 conditions: parents' consent and the girl's consent.
But at 6, my argument would be you're not able to give
I
consent.
said until the age of 9.
But even at 9,
Also,
I have children.
So okay, so your point is
my 9-year-old can't make really sensible decisions.
Okay. So that's what you believe. So my point to you, my point is, no, I think if I'm not wrong, you are protecting the children from getting harmed, yes?
I think what we
and
do,
from getting stressed. Yes, correct?
As parents,
No,
you do your best.
Can you answer?
I will. I don't think as a parent, you're trying to protect your children from all stresses. In fact, I think that would be negative. As an adult, what you do is you try to expose your children to life, to the pressures, so that they can build a resilience and a strength and a character to be able to overcome stresses.
Are you protecting children from getting stressed and harmful?
To a large extent, I'll go along with that. Yeah. Yes, I'll say yes.
So
yes.
okay, if it says yes,
but it's how you apply.
Okay,
that,
if it's yes, then
is the nuance.
Okay, if it's yes, then stress is stress. Do you agree with me?
Life is stressful.
Stress
so
is
your
stress,
job
yes?
as a parent.
No,
is to
I'm
teach
saying
your
as
children.
long your child is suffering from stress, and depression, would that be okay?
Well, we'd have to specify.
Would you allow your child to suffer from stress and anxiety and depression? Would you allow?
Not at a clinical level, no.
No, yes. Okay, would you allow your child to change his gender?
Just wanted to say.
Or her gender?
We've gone round that.
No, would you allow?
No,
Would you allow?
I would consider them not.
No, would you allow?
I would consider them not of a sufficient cognitive development.
No, would you allow them to do that?
I'm saying no, I wouldn't.
The answer is
but I'm
no.
explaining
okay,
why.
What if they want to do it and you're stopping them from doing that? Are they not getting stressed?
Oh, absolutely.
So then you're not protecting the children then?
No, but I didn't universally.
You can't tell me you protecting the children through in terms of marriage, but you're protecting the same. You're not protecting the same children who wants to change their gender.
So let me just explain. I was very careful to say a role of a parent is not to universally protect your child from all stresses. In fact, I would go so far as to say that is in fact probably a negative way of parenting, because you will then not lead them to be
Do you believe
resilient.
children should get happiness?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. If your child, if your child, let's say your daughter, she's a 9-year-old or 10-year-old, and she wants to have a boyfriend. If you stop her, or if you want to stop her from doing that, but she wants to do it, would you say okay or no?
No, I would say no, and she would get upset.
Yes.
But that's not the same, is it?
No, she wants and you cannot stop her. Do you believe forcing children?
Physically, I don't believe.
No, forcing them, by any chance, forcing them.
Well, again, it depends on the circumstances.
So this one also depends on the circumstances.
So if my child wishes to walk in the road, I'm going to force them not to. That's a pretty reasonable example.
No, I'm saying if they want anything to do it. No. And if you stop, and logically we know if I want to do something and I can't get that thing, I would become stressed. You also. Yeah. Also, children are the same.
Life comes with stress.
Children also would suffer from stress and depression by not allowing them whatever they want to do. Same as an adult. So now you're telling me, you asked me the marriage of the Prophet and Aisha, you said in terms of stress and in terms of depression, would affect her would affect that would affect her mentally and physically and emotionally.
Let me respond, because what I actually said was that it would be a very useful discussion to have about the relative risks of this practice over.
Not every time. You said not in every circumstances. So now you have to accept mine.
No, I don't have to accept.
So I have to accept yours.
let me. I'm not actually getting a chance to articulate much. Your approach is somewhat combative.
What did
It
you do
doesn't
that
need
for?
to be. Okay. Because we're having a good conversation, and I respect.
Oh
that.
my days, bro.
What you said is you made a very
And he
strong
consummated
case
a marriage
to
at the age of
outline
9.
why that particular marriage didn't have those problems
That's
that I said
a
may
mad thing.
occur.
Yeah, same day when
That's
you
a
were
mad
to
thing.
grant his mom.
Yeah, did
And
you
I
also
said
drink
that
camel
if
milk
you
and
can
urine?
speak
drink
about
camel urine.
that,
Go drink
and,
normal
and,
milk.
and the evidence says
Go
that
drink human urine.
that marriage was good, and that marriage was
Prophet
productive and wonderful. The
Dates before your
danger
cancer,
is that we
Yeah,
then
yeah,
go from
dates
that
before your
point
cancer,
and say that practice across all examples of it taking place is also good. And I said I would have a concern that that's not the case.
I'm gonna eat dates.
To me, all I said,
Come on, man.
you either tell me you protecting children from any harmful, from any
I was
stress,
clear that a parent
from
can't
any
do that.
stress.
No-
So
no parent
since you believe,
protects their children from everything.
since you believe you're not allowed to, you're not here to punish your children, you're not here to force your children, you're here to give them happiness. And if they want to change their genders, if they want to change their genders, you cannot stop them from doing that because the law of UK says they can. But the same law says you cannot get married until at the age of 18. But you can have a boyfriend before the age of 18. You cannot drink alcohol. You cannot smoke
I get the impression you're talking more to
until
the
the
camera
age
and
of
less to me.
18. So
You're
it doesn't
not-
make sense. Same law allows children to do certain things, which
can I
was
just say-
bad,
can I just say-
but certain things they cannot do it.
I'm
Double standard.
I'm likely to leave shortly because what I sense is happening.
Yeah,
here
I understand.
Is we were having a very detailed
Thank you.
conversation.
Yes.
Then this has happened.
Yes.
And now you're beginning to your focus is on who might be watching you rather than who you're talking to. You're speaking about things in terms that we haven't discussed. Now, just to be clear, we were here talking
Yes.
for about 15 minutes.
Yes.
And in that time, we shared a lot of views and a lot of
Yes.
agreement on things, which I
Yes.
thought was really positive.
Yes.
Now, and it's only my perspective,
Yes.
you're becoming a little bit more presentational,
No,
a little bit more to the audience.
I'm responding
And
to you.
No, because you've repeated this
You know, I
idea
just said in Islam-
about gender and changing gender, and we
No, I
we
was
very
talking
clearly
about
clarified
no
my
your
position
point.
on that.
No, I'm saying
And
your
you
point.
keep coming back to
No,
it,
I
and
was
it's a
saying.
bit
No, I was
odd,
saying
if
your
you don't mind
point
me saying.
was your point was
Yeah.
to protect children. Yes.
Well, I
And from stress,
let
to
me
protect
very-
children
if
from
I can get
stress
right- if I-
and giving them
if I-
happiness.
Okay, let me clarify what
Yes.
my position was. Yeah?
Yes.
Please afford me that opportunity.
Okay.
So, I would strongly suggest
Yes.
that every parent's job
Yes.
is to bring their children into the world
Yes.
and do what they can, the best they can, in an imperfect way, because it's one of the few things we don't have a job interview for,
Yes.
becoming a parent.
Yes.
To bring their children up in such a way that they become a fully fledged, resilient, intelligent adult capable of going out into a world which will cause them difficulty, which will cause them stress,
Yes.
and surviving that and thriving and being good and being moral. Now, in order to do that, they are clearly not going to protect them from every stress that is ever going to come their way. And in fact, furthermore, I would say that it's the parent's job to actually ensure that they understand how to cope with stress. And the only way you can do that is by allowing a controlled exposure to it. So, for instance, a good example, kids go through school. Exams are very stressful. Now, I wouldn't advocate that being a good parent would say, well, I'm not going to let my kid take exams because there's stress involved. That is part and parcel of them growing up. And then when they become a fully fledged adult and they have interviews and job and there's pressures, the lessons and resilience